Greetings, YouTube friends. Markets can be timed, and planetary cycles may reveal when the most important turning points are approaching. Today, I'm joined by legendary financial astrologer and author Christeen Skinner to explore the cycles she uses to forecast the financial markets and what they could potentially be signaling now. Greetings, Christeen.
Hello. We're meeting at such an interesting time, are we not?
We are indeed. We are just, I was calling the new moon that we just had the doorway to the basket, essentially.
The doorway, or rather like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I get that. That's really good. Yep.
So I feel like we're just kind of, walking one foot in front of the next through this astounding number of planetary alignments.
It's really awesome. You know, because I do quite a bit of teaching, and obviously I'm listening to and reading what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been so blinded by this Uranus-Pluto trine, and everybody's saying this is the state, this is the era of AI and all that. And of course I get that. Of course I get that. But I've been particularly concerned that even prior to Uranus and Pluto changing signs, Neptune was on the midpoint of the two of them.
Mm.
And it's staying on the midpoint of the two of them. It's kind of moving with them, right? All the way through until 2028. And depending on how much orb you want to allow for it, you could say it's either the beginning or the end of 2028.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been thinking of this as being as though, I'm sorry, I know because I've said this elsewhere, but I think this is a bit like, when Microsoft takes over your computer and it says it's going to update.
Uh-huh.
And you say, no, you're not, because I'm busy. So you press the pause button. And then there comes a day when it says, I'm doing it, and you have no control at all, right? You have to go off and have coffee or what have you. I kind of think that we are in the middle of some extraordinary upgrade. And I prefer to think of it as it's a cosmic download, which is actually an upgrade. And that's really difficult for the markets because, I mean, it's true. History never repeats exactly anyway. And the whole thing about forecasting is that you're looking for patterns. So you say, well, when that pattern happened before, this is what happens. So a variation of that will happen this time. But we've never had this particular little framework, this Uranus, Neptune, Pluto thing. We haven't had this since we've had markets in the form that they are today. So we don't have anything to compare this with. So we've really got to go back to very basic principles with this and say, what could it possibly be about? Well, Uranus, we know, is edgy, and it's saying, let's do something new. AI fits in very nicely with that, right? Pluto's moved into Aquarius, which is Uranus's sign. So that says, yes, and, I'm unstoppable. I'm the big thug. I can do all this. But Neptune in between the two of them is a highly manipulated thing. And Neptune is a fantastic seductress, really amazing, or seducer rather, whichever way you want to look at it, right? We've entered the world of slippiness. And I think the classic example of this was the SpaceX launch, right? Because there is no way under that configuration, right? You would have, it's all wonderful, isn't it? It's all bright eyes and it's all fantastic, right? But there's nothing solid underneath it, right? And this is the problem because I think that this basket, as you rightly said, and I love your expression, by the way, that the doorway into the basket, right? This is, it's like a honeycomb, isn't it? This basket, this, all of these hexagons. I think there's lots and lots of opportunity in there. Absolutely do I think there's lots of opportunity. Would I say to anybody, don't play the markets now? No, that'd be stupid, right? But what you would say is, if you're going to play them, right, you need to do it with a safety harness on because none of it, it's all very unsolid now. It's really a kind of liquid, really not a safe place to play. And if you're not experienced, right, that there's more chance of things going wrong because it's a lottery. Right? Right. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it like that first stage, Margot. And then the second stage is what is actually going to happen this weekend and next week.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's critical. Just before we came on air, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's been an earthquake just off the coast of Mexico.
I hadn't seen that yet. Nope.
Right.
Wow.
This is in the last hour, right?
Okay.
This is in the last
Yep.
hour. And they're saying it's the bottom end of Mexico. And what they're saying is it's a 7.2, so that's
Wow.
huge,
Yeah,
right?
that's big.
And there may be a big tsunami coming with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where all this fits in is that the bulk of my work, I'm monitoring solar activity as a constant.
Okay.
And the sun has been really throwing out some amazing stuff. In July the 4th, it threw out some extraordinary
Yeah.
CMEs, right? And
Yeah.
they're still coming, right? Now, in the work the research I've been doing with Ona Dosa in Turkey, what we're noticing is that when there's certain planetary formations, there's increased solar activity. And
Yes.
this basket that Barbault's talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's increased solar activity, which puts all of us into some kind of hyper state.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is now I think we're in a very dangerous period. Now we know that solar activity and movement of the earth, the terrestrial stuff, that's causing the tsunami and the earthquakes and all that. We know there's a link between those things as well.
Correct. Yeah.
This is a little bit early, this Mexican thing. For me, this is a little bit early because I'm slightly more concerned about the 24th and 25th.
Okay.
I know everybody's talking about Sunday because the basket is in operation on Sunday, but it's at the end of next week, Thursday and Friday, when if you do the heliocentric version of the thing, so as though you're standing on the sun, and you do the
Mm-hmm.
heliocentric thing then, and then you've got an absolutely perfect basket shape. Right?
Yeah.
And it's bringing in Venus and Mercury and touching off to Jupiter. It's picking all of those things up. And whilst all that's going on, Jupiter is opposing Pluto. The gambler's curse
Right.
is going on.
Yeah.
So, you would have to be very, very careful if you're trading next week.
Yeah, I think, when I was studying all of the alignments that are happening, what stood out to me is the concept of the Phoenix rising. Is like that this is this is gonna provide us with an opportunity to rise up out of some crisis. That was kind of what I saw. And that Jupiter Pluto opposition as like the peak tension point, really, in that. And here, let me share the basket image for people
Yeah.
to get a look at. And it is worth noting. So this is the basket. This is what I was thinking was the peak basket moment on the 21st of July, because you've got, the moon at 4 degrees Scorpio, and it actually creates kind of this, the moon's going to make this opposition here to Chiron as well.
Chiron,
So
yeah.
T square going on the 21st. But yeah, as you mentioned, it transforms, and I didn't prep all the different transformations of it for our video, since we're just kind of having a conversation and sharing our ideas. But for the viewers to know that the basket shape transforms as the sun and the moon move, right? And it turns in, and Mercury and Venus, and it turns into various different configurations with geometric patterning in it, and yeah.
It's like the old-fashioned cat's cradle, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Yep. And so it's taking into very different formations each time. Now, what does that actually mean to the real, to the trader, right? What does that mean, right? And that's where you need to have some understanding of what the trader is looking for. Where are they involved? I mean, the first thing is to say, listen, never mind where everything else is. That Jupiter-Pluto opposition is in the sky. It's hanging about, right?
Yep.
Something is completely overstretched. Is it the bond markets, right? Right?
Mm.
What is it that is completely overstretched? And do you know what's really so interesting about this is that the very last time that Jupiter and Pluto were in an opposition against Leo Aquarius was
Hmm.
the exact day, September the 2nd, 1790. I've forgotten what it is now, but it's exactly the day when the US Treasury came into being.
Oh, wow. That's a
To the
great
day,
correlation.
to the
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
So, it makes me think, what is going to emerge next week? What's been in the planning now for the last few months, right? Is
Yep.
this to do with the cryptos? Is it to do with, a country having its own digital currency? What is it, right? But
Well,
I,
we're also in the time band. I did a bunch of research on the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. And, the patterning, the Genius Act was passed last year during this time. So I
yeah,
have been expecting to see some emergence around the Clarity Act, whether it's going to be a full passage or whether it's going to be some sort of major news. So that's interesting that you brought up cryptos because
uh,
that seems like we're in that time
well,
band.
I think you may be right, Margot, because from my looking at this, I'm thinking that 24th, 25th, the end of next week, right?
Mm.
Because I think the heliocentric pattern is really interesting in this. That happens to coincide with Mercury stationing. Right? And so it could easily be that, there is a cosmic message here. This is like the post. The post is sent on Sunday, but it's delivered on Friday. It's that kind of thing. So I am fully expecting some big statements to come out next week. And I'm expecting statements that are driven obviously by humankind, but I'm also wondering if we're going to see some kind of natural, dare I say it, natural disaster, right, next week,
Yeah.
that has a big effect. Now, I don't think it would have a big effect on Monday because I took Monday's markets apart and I couldn't find anything there that told me that, everything was going to fall over on Monday. But I think towards the end of next week, things become much more precarious.
Yeah, I pulled up the heliocentric chart too, just real quick here, just to so we
Yeah.
could peek at it. This is the heliocentric chart from the 25th, and I don't have an exact time going here. I'm just kind of pulling it up, but yeah, definitely there's a lot of activation. And what I just noticed when pulling this up is
No, wait a
heliocentrically.
minute. No, no, no. Hold on a minute.
Oh,
That's
that's
not
the wrong date.
that's
You're right.
the
That's
wrong date.
1970. Hold
Yes.
on, hold on.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, right. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. Um,
Yes, you
yeah,
see, yes, because you end up with yet again. I mean, this has been happening every month since
yeah,
August of 2024. We've ended up with a kite, at least one kite every month.
yeah, yes, we have.
And
Yep.
and a
And
very
sometimes two at the same
yeah,
time.
sometimes too. And a really good
Well,
image for
here.
this is that the euro, the euro currency, it was floated the 1st of January 1999. That one came in on a kite as well. And
Yeah.
very interesting that afterwards, the people who put it together said, well, in their words, in French though, but they were saying we were flying a kite. We didn't know what was going to happen. And this is,
Mm,
I think, what we're also going to see next week is lots of ideas, flying a kite. Here in the UK, we're going to have a new prime minister on Monday.
hmm.
What a time
Okay.
for him to take on, right? And he is going to be flying multiple kites, saying he's going to do things differently, this, that, and the next thing. And I'm sure this won't be unique to the UK. This is going to be everywhere. And also for people listening to us, it's us as well, right? We're not separate from this. So we're all of us trying to fly kites presently. We're trying to do new things. You've got your podcast, I've got my writing. We're all of us playing with new ideas, but they're
Yeah.
not yet, and they can't be solidified yet. In fact, you could argue that they're being hampered presently because Chiron, God bless it, has now moved into Taurus, and we've got a
Yes.
whole other ball game to deal with that.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I've done some extensive research on Chiron and Taurus actually, and there's massive correlations to food shortages and
I,
droughts and fires and all kinds of interesting connections to our resources and the land, right? The Chiron and Taurus. So,
I Absolutely. And so the clients I've been working with, for the last couple of years, because I've been talking about the potential for food shortage, distribution crisis, right? So we've been talking about those things. Now, we haven't really felt the full effects of the holdups from the Straits of Hormuz yet, but we're
Correct.
going
Yep.
to. These 3 months, we're going to get an overture really to what it's going to be like. And then if
Yep.
you fast forward to June of 2028, which I don't suggest anybody does unless they've had a good gin beforehand, because it's the most awful chart.
Oh,
It's
let's do.
really,
What, do you have an exact day on June?
yeah, I mean, you might as well I mean, do June the 10th of 2028, just because you'll see in a minute.
Yep. Okay.
You've got an awful lot of stuff there, so you probably want to strip it out a bit. But
Yeah. There's our
there
Chiron.
we
Oh, yes,
there
this
we
is
are.
the Chiron Saturn conjunction is incoming there. Yes.
That
This
now
is the
it's
apex. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
but that's only part of the story because the two of them will be at right angles to Pluto. Right?
Yes,
And
yes,
and
yes. Yep.
most importantly, both of them pick up the Saturn Chiron particularly picks up the eclipse from that chart for mankind. You know, the one that is
Uh-huh.
the eclipse from the last Neptune
Yeah,
Pluto
I think I have the
thing.
mankind chart. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yep.
Right.
The seven
There
degree
we go.
Taurus eclipse. That's
Yeah.
right.
So we're going to have the Saturn Chiron on
Mm-hmm.
the mankind chart.
Wow.
So this doesn't matter where you are in the world, right?
Yep.
There is no place to go and hide from this thing. We are all of us going to be affected. Now, I don't know what this, I can't know what this is, right? All I
Yeah.
can know is that I'm really concerned about June. So
Yeah.
in practical terms, what does that mean to my clients? Well,
Yeah.
actually, it means it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank. That's going to mean diddly squat if you can't actually, if you haven't got access to food, right? And so I don't know about you, Margo, but I have a sort of a, an agenda that I go through with clients, right, about
Mm-hmm.
money. And you start off with, the hope is that you've got cash and enough to last you for 6 months if everything goes wrong. But actually,
Yes.
what matters more than that is a good community because,
Yes.
that's so your investment right now should, from now should really be on friendships and networking.
That's a great topic to chat about briefly. I actually have been working with a community here for the past 4 years. So I live on
Mm.
150 acres and we've got a food forest and various different things. And I totally agree with you. I think that is one of the prime places for us to be putting our energy is into sustainable living for the future for ourselves and our families and our friends and our networks.
It is, and it may not even be enough, Margot.
Yeah.
Right? It may be that this is a kind of like an insoluble problem, because Pluto in Aquarius that rather suggests air pollution, right? So
Yeah.
I understand that already the fire there's an effect from the smoke from the fires in Canada that's drifting down into the USA, right?
Yeah.
We have big problems here in London. I live not very far away from a little girl died a few years ago, right? And hers is the first death where they put on the death certificate that she died due to air pollution.
Wow.
Right. Now that hadn't
Wow.
happened in the
That's
UK
interesting.
before, right? And I'm
Wow.
thinking this is, we're pushing so much stuff into the air, but even if humankind wasn't doing that, right? These fires, the way that, the planet is, the entire solar system is affected presently.
Mm.
Out from the sun, every single one of the planets is being affected presently. The ice caps on Mars are melting. Right?
Yeah. Oh,
You
wow.
know,
I didn't even know that. That's fascinating.
yeah. So actually, I'm not saying that, we can go mad and it doesn't matter what we do. I just
Right.
think we have, the climate change that's happening, and it is happening, right, isn't
Hmm.
entirely due to our bad behavior, right? It's
Hmm.
also due something much bigger is happening out there. And rather than squabbling about who's doing what, we actually have to work out how we're going to survive this thing, because I think we're in for at least 20, 30 years of extreme difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting take. And I think that absolutely our solar system, our planet, everything has such grandiose time cycles and life cycles that they're operating. And like our view is kind of like an ant's view, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to go absolutely into the doom thing. I mean, I have to be
Right.
practical with the clients and say, listen, I think you need to be building up with the network. And if you've got a business, you've got to think about your supply chain, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when it's broken? Because it will break. What's your plan B? What's plan C, right?
Yeah.
And which other groups of companies could you do short-term, not mergers, but short-term collaboration with, whilst we go through what looks as though it's going to be an awkward tunnel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the, like, if you look at the markets and one of the ways I think to potentially position, and like you mentioned, there could be such transformative shifts in money and markets that what we're saying now might not even be relevant in 3 or 5 years, but I'm looking at agricultural stocks, commodities as kind of a primary focal point for investment and just long-term outlook.
You're absolutely right. I spent a lot of time looking at wheat, for example, right?
Yes.
And you can see, and that I can come up with something that, is helpful there. But, even then, yes, okay, I'm quite good at picking up the times when there'll be a shortage and therefore prices will rise. I can do all of that.
Yeah.
But what I can't do is, supposing there is some wildfire, right? And so it's the reality. It's no longer whether or not you're getting $50 or whatever. It's the reality of, how do we live through this?
Yeah.
How are we going to sustain? I mean, this is going to be really, really tricky. That said, where would I invest? Right?
Yeah.
People always need staples, right?
Yeah.
There are certain things we cannot do without. So the companies that provide the staples, which is like the toilet paper and all, and the washing powder and stuff, right? It's good to
Yes.
have a little bit of an investment in those. It's good to have something into food.
Yeah.
Best really is localization. And I think maybe that's one of the twists of Uranus being in Gemini. It's all
Mhm.
about local distribution. Small is beautiful suddenly.
Yeah.
You know,
I just
we,
stopped the screen share. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, the fishmonger and the bread guy came round in vans, on one set day a week, and you actually shopped locally and very good quality, right?
Yep.
We've gone the other way, right? And now I think we're pulling back. I
Yeah.
understand. I had a very interesting conversation the other day with somebody who'd just come back from the States, Florida, who was remarking on how few people were in the malls,
The
in the
mall.
shopping malls.
Oh, the
The
mall,
shopping,
shopping
yes,
malls. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Absolutely. It's so undesirable. I mean, I'm super thankful. We have such an amazing and robust farmers market out here where I live. It's such a opportunity to be able to have local food and connect with people. It's totally opposite from the mall situation.
But I can remember years ago, and I'm probably talking about 20 years ago, when somebody was asking me about investing in building shopping malls, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and I was saying, I don't think you want to go down that route, right? I
Mhm.
really don't think you want to do that, because I don't think people will drive. They won't be able to. The oil prices are going to be too much, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have to be a different shopping experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That,
But if you're looking for something to invest in, then it's going to be drones, or they probably won't be called drones in the same way. I mean, I had a lovely moment the other day when one of the grandchildren were here, and I was sorting something out upstairs, and there were some cassettes. And I
mhm.
said, oh, good, I'd forgotten where they were. And he looked at me and he said, well, what are they? So I explained what it was, and he looked at me as though I'd arrived from Mars or somewhere. And behind that box, there was some CDs, and he said, and what are these? And
Uh-huh.
then we thought, sugar, like we've come so far in just in the space of what, 20 years, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so drones are trendy now, right? But there'll be something else. We'll have flying motorbikes or something, right?
Yeah.
And those are probably going to be the things to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
The
security.
technology grows exponentially, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And then we haven't talked about space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to go and invest in a rocket, right? I don't want to, I'm not, I'm not into that. But rockets are made of pieces, components, right? And
Hmm.
the interest in going into space, right? And incidentally, who's going to clear up space? Because, right, that's a
Yep.
mess up there, right?
Space
There is
cleanup. Yep.
there is no international space agreement, or rather there is, but only a fraction of countries signed up to it. And would you believe, I learned recently, there isn't even an agreement about where space starts. Would you, right? There's
Wow.
about,
That's a pretty deep question, really, right? Like, how do you define where space starts?
well, this is the whole thing. Does it start 50 kilometers above the atmosphere, or is
Yep.
it 80 kilometers above the atmosphere? Well, yeah. And
Right.
if you, Mr. China, right, are saying it starts here, and Mr. India says it starts there, who's in charge of that middle bit, right? And
Hmm.
supposing you've got a satellite there, which is in my way, and I push it out of the way, right? Who's responsible for where that falls? I mean, I know most of them burn up in the atmosphere, but I'm just saying there is so many issues that haven't been addressed yet.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very good point. Um, do you have any uh ideas, or are there any companies you're looking at for that do like space cleanup? I mean, that's an interesting and novel idea, right?
Well, can I tell you that I got super excited about one?
Uh-huh.
I won't even tell you where it was, but I got super excited
Uh-huh.
and said, "Oh, we want to buy into this," only to discover that it's still family owned and there was no way of getting in, right? But it's something that people should be thinking about in the same way we're thinking about ocean cleanup, because that's another big thing, right?
Yeah.
And they're so far advanced now in cleaning up with plastics, right?
Yeah.
They're doing so well with that. And that I can't see that as being a sector that's not going to be in demand.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned water, and that's actually, I just wrote I write these briefs in my Patreon and my Discord for my members and my subscribers, and I really went on a deep dive on water. And I think
Mhm.
water infrastructure is I think we're in the preliminary phase, like the embryonic phase, if you will, with water stocks and water infrastructure, kind of like we were with energy infrastructure a couple years ago before energy infrastructure took off, right? Because if you look at population growth and industrial expansion, data center usage of water, there's just a massive increasing demand on the public water systems. And plus, then in the US here, I haven't tracked if this is going on over in Europe, but there's been this recent parasite problem over here. I don't
Mhm.
know if you've heard about that.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes,
Yep.
yeah.
But also transmitted through the water, right?
Mhm.
If you and then they've been in over in the Iran war, they've been striking water facilities. If you just
Mhm.
kind of start looking, you'll see. And I was thinking about that. And if you think about it from the astrological perspective, you know, all of the planets are really moving out of the water signs, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a deficiency in the water energy right now.
So the first book that I wrote, the original Financial Universe, I actually had a whole chapter called The Water Wars, right?
Oh wow.
Because
Okay.
I thought that I was really bothered for 2010. I was way ahead of my time in this, right? But
Yep.
I have been binding on about investing in water for
Yep.
practically all the time that I've been working, right?
Yep.
Because it's worth more than gold and nobody is getting it, right?
Yep.
You know, and water is, you think of it as it's just H2O, but it isn't just H2O. There are so many different variations of it and how we
Yep.
look after it. And so
Yep.
there's some extraordinary work being done, but it's also being used as just as they've been bombing those water facilities, which frankly I think it's that's more criminal than practically anything else I can think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, water
I
is
mean,
the foundation
it,
of life, right?
even the word genocide is not enough to describe just how despicable that act is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It, that really, yeah, that touches so many nerves for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just yeah, the war in general is just it's so yeah, tragic in general. So many people's
And
lives
we
lost.
haven't, we are so not, we're privileged. You and I can sit and chat. We can have a coffee whilst we're doing. We're not really touched by this thing yet,
Yeah,
but it is going to touch us.
yeah.
This thing is going to spread. I really, really hope that I'm wrong, Margo, but
Yeah.
I have very, very little confidence, right? Given on the solar eclipse that's coming next month, right? Mars is again onto the world axis. The 12th of August, Mars is at zero Cancer.
Put that one up here. Hold on. The total solar, right?
Yeah, the total solar. Yeah. And Mars
Mars is,
is at zero Cancer. So
yes.
that Mars is picking up again on the Saturn Neptune conjunction that we had back in February.
Yeah.
So that's not over yet. I mean, people say, well, Saturn's moved off, right? But actually, it's still in the air. They've been in parallel. They've had some quite extraordinary aspects between them. Mars will trigger that again. So
Yeah.
I know the classic thing that people write about. They say, well, it's Russia that's involved with that, but actually, that could just as easily be India and Pakistan
Mm.
because they're both of them have the same birthday, and the eclipse is on their suns.
So I did not notice that yet. That's great. Yeah, the eclipse is on the India and Pakistan suns.
Yes.
Wow. The eclipse is also, well, this is over New York City. It's square to the part of fortune too, which is, you know, not super favorable for the financial markets either, but that's kind of tangential.
Well,
That's,
well, that brings us up to something else, right? Are we okay to keep talking?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. This is great
Um,
conversation.
so Arch Crawford,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Yep.
He was saying markets tended to go up into these Mars Uranus aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
we just had one for the 4th of July.
We did.
My,
Yeah.
my my concern about that was that I thought the Americans are going to have a big party, and then the conjunction will be over. The Jupiter Pluto thing will be the gambler's curse will be in operation. Their credit card bill's going to come in, and they won't be able to pay it. So I was looking for the markets being in negative territory after the 4th of July. What
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't done at that point, Margo, is take into account the fact that heliocentrically, the Mars Uranus is not finished yet, right? That's about the 15th of August, right? We've still got to have that one yet. So it may be that they don't completely fracture until after that date. But we're getting what we're seeing just presently is fractures in various areas, like with the chips.
Yeah.
You know, but it'll be other areas and IBM was hit the other day that
Oh my gosh, that
yeah,
IBM move was incredible.
yeah.
That was huge.
So you're actually seeing fault lines appearing in lots of places, but they
Mm-hmm.
haven't collectively come together yet to mark what you and I might call as a correction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the markets in general the rotation has been strong. I did some research. There's been midterm research going on around midterm years around XLV, and that
Mhm.
it's strong in something like 90 some odd percent of the years since XLV's inception. And then that kind of drove, I've been doing these like kind of deep dive workbooks. Let me see if I can pull one up to show you real quick. It's kind of an interesting uh, way that I'm using AI because, the things that we can study and put together are fascinating, right? So
Mhm.
I went and I ran this study on
Oh,
XLV.
clever.
Yep, and I
Brilliant.
I have it look for weekly pivots, daily pivots, bearish, bullish tendencies, greater than 2 standard deviation moves. And it creates, it comes up with the number of aspects that create,
Yep.
those most likely scenarios. And then here, let me bring over, and then I built an indicator out of it. And so,
Wow.
this is XLV. So, and I have a really effective planetary cycle analog that works on it. So, I've been long XLV since back here. But look at how astounding this is. There's a very high correlation with XLV to Mercury stations, retrograde stations.
Right.
5-day minimum bearish move after the station. Look at that. 2 days after the station, peaked, come down. So we're still kind of in that window. But we've got a 2 standard deviation move to the upside incoming on the 23rd. So this kind of tells me that we might keep seeing that rotation,
Yeah.
that could kind of keep the markets propped up. But I do agree with you that I think August looks really rough when we get towards that eclipse time.
Well, yes, and I think really if we kind of go past, what I'm saying is I think the 15th of August looks a bit iffy to me. But then of course we've got the lunar eclipse on the 28th, right?
Yeah.
When we will have too many things in mutable signs, which is never a good thing, right? Because then the markets have no idea what direction to go in and tend in that case to go down.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the autumn let's not make this all doom and gloomy, but we also have this autumn, you're going to have Scorpio retrogrades.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I did a fascinating one of those workbooks on that. Hold on. Let me show you. So I actually pulled, and it was only back to 1925. And I actually want to go all the way back to 1900. I usually go to 1900 on the Dow Jones, but let me see if I can, hold on. I didn't prep it. So let me find it. Here we go. Okay. So this was actually fascinating research. So this is when you have Mercury and Scorpio, Mercury and Venus retrograde in Scorpio, right?
Right.
So we only had 4 periods since 1925 to backtest.
Yeah.
But the overall return is generally kind of flat to positive, which is shocked me actually, right? Because Venus retrogrades tend to be very negative, so I was pretty impressed with that result, but it also then kind of dialed in more specifically, there tends to be a correlation to a pivot low on the weekly chart. Hold on, let me find this. Let's see. So weekly pivot lows in 5 out of 9 overlap weeks were 55.6% in the controls. So here's the, hold on, let me show. This is the baseline study that I was building here. So here's the overlap windows. So this is the actual results during the period when we have both Venus and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And this is returns on Dow Jones. So we were positive 3.5%, positive 3.49%, and then basically flat, negative 0.4 and 0.65. So I thought that was kind of interesting anyway. And curtailed, but on the 8-year Venus cycle, which is one of the ones I run quite extensively on the financial markets, particularly on the indexes, if you go back 8 years ago in 2018, the Christmas crash is what happened during the 8 years.
Yep.
So I definitely don't think that we're out of the risk window at all just based on that study. But I thought that was interesting data points.
Margo, I was looking at the 80-year cycle, right?
Okay.
Right, one of the George Bayer things. Right? And if you did that takes us back to 1946. Right? And if you see what happened in 1946, the market went up, and then in August it had a massive fall, right? So I did exactly the same thing again, right, for this year, right? And looked at the opening and closing, I think on the 14th of August. And you have to check on this, but one of them has got Mars exactly on the midheaven. And I thought, well, this is it. We're coming to this. I don't think you should ever make a forecast, Margo, unless you can back it up 2, 3, 4 different ways, right?
Yes, that's one of the things I learned from you. I love that.
Yeah. And in this case, I could in multiple ways. There's so many clues that tell me that the middle of August is a really precarious time. Mm.
Yeah, I agree with
And
that.
the last time we had anything remotely similar was when the ruble collapsed, which in the late 1990s, right? And I remember I was with some bankers we were having lunch in about the June in the city of London. And I said, that I was bothered about the middle of August. And one of them said, no, nothing will happen then, Christine, because we're all on holiday. And I was thinking, well, you want to be able to be. And of course, they had to fly back from Switzerland to sort this mess out. And I think we have something similar again this time. I'm not sure it's going to be the currency markets because, frankly, Margot, I am getting so many headaches now trying to understand the crypto and all the machinations of these markets are now, it's
Yeah.
beyond my brain, really.
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is the Dow Jones 1946 price action
Yeah,
here. So there it
yeah,
is. It looks, and you know what this actually reminds me of is 1987. Not the quite the
yeah,
magnitude, right? But the same time band essentially.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's great. That's a awesome correlation that I'll take a look at those charts too. But this also supports that study that I was showing on the Venus. So this is when we had Venus and Mercury retrograde here, and it
mhm,
it aligned with the low essentially. So
yeah,
if we put it all together, what the study is saying, what you're showing, the 80-year cycle, it looks like the greater correlation, right, would be to the down move coming into the Mercury Venus Scorpio period, right?
yes, yes, yeah,
And then the move up out of it.
and then move on. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I think really that the summary really is that August looks dodgy.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Um,
Um, I'm going to look very silly if I've got this wrong when I go to the UAC conference in September.
oh, I'll be there too.
Well,
I was
all right, okay. Well, we can look silly together
We can
then.
look silly together. I was going to show you since you talked about Bitcoin here. Let me pull this up. I didn't have this prepped, but let me see if I can get my chart to load, which sometimes it's difficult. Let me reload it real quick. Let's go Bitcoin. Here we go. So this is I use an analog. Oh, hold on. Got a bunch of stuff on here that doesn't belong here. Okay. I use an analog on Bitcoin, and this is kind of back to what we were talking about. Maybe we might see some sort of like pop or short-term news in
Mhm.
around the Clarity Act or in cryptocurrencies. This is what I've got here. So these bars overlaid here, these are my projections, right?
Okay.
So you can see that we've been tracking really, really exceptionally well, and then the price action underneath it obviously is the real-time live price action. So this is where we're at. So what I've got is that we're due for a short-term pop up into the end of July, early August, followed by a pretty strong move down. And then here I haven't deciphered which cycle I think is the most likely yet. So these are the different variations. But yeah, I guess I just thinking about crypto that aligns with the August thesis that you're mentioning as well. When we're looking for how many different angles can we verify a thesis from?
Yeah, I mean we're really up against it, even with
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and we've got a fair amount of time for Bitcoin, but we don't have an entire Saturn cycle, for example. We don't have an entire Uranus cycle, and
Right.
we're really limited with what we've got. And
Yeah.
and I think another way to look at it is to say, well, how old is it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's what? It's about 18 years old. It's 18, 19 years old. Right? So it's still at kind of, if it was a person, it's at
Yeah.
university now. It's first year university, probably drinking a bit too much, right? Just trying to find its own feet, right? But
Yeah.
it's not really ready to take on a proper job or confront the banks or whatever. It's not even ready for the interview yet. So it's
Yeah.
still in very, very baby stages. And
Yeah.
my preference, I mean, for what it's worth, my preference has always been Ethereum because Ethereum came in with on a much better curve. And I know Ethereum's got a retrograde Venus, but that won't last forever, right? So if
Yeah.
you're playing for the long term, Ethereum, I think, is the much better bet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
its architecture is very different. Its usability is different. Um, the
yeah.
Bitcoin is fast becoming a bit like gold, nice to
Yeah.
have, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and we're in crypto winter too, So, I mean, I
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that, but the question is what pulls us out of that? And I think by the end of this year, something will pull us out of that at least for a while. Um, so
Well, we just have to remember, going back to the total basics, right, is
mhm.
that all of these coins require huge amounts of energy,
Yeah,
right?
they
To
do.
exist, they
Yes.
require energy, right?
Yep.
And we may get to the point where we have to choose, do we want the energy for food or for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, one of the patterns that I researched when I was I wrote my first forecast book this year.
oh, good
And
for you.
yeah, thank you. It was a really awesome journey, right? And one
Mm.
of the things that I found that was unique around the Uranus Pluto trine, and I don't maybe this is something that you've observed as well, but it's correlated to energy infrastructure expansion, actually. Um, so let's see, I was gonna,
Yeah, but you see, there again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm
yeah,
absolutely not disagreeing with you. But
yeah,
the fact that Neptune is in the middle there, right?
right,
Right. So how
yeah,
many leaks are there? So for
yeah,
example, supposing you say, well, this is an infrastructure thing. We're sending the energy down this tube, this pipe, right?
yeah,
But Neptune's in the way, right? So there's
yeah,
going to be holes in the pipe, right? Or people ripping things off from it. This is not anything, it's nowhere near a stable combination.
yeah, absolutely. That's a really great interpretation. I like the interpretation of Neptune as leaks. That's yeah, and disruption.
Yeah. Do you know what? One of the interesting things, Margot, is if you go back to August of 2024,
Hmm.
that was when Neptune was on this midpoint and Mars opposed it. So it made it into a big kite. And that was the day that President Trump went to meet Putin in Anchorage, Alaska. Mm.
What date? Give me, or just like a
Oh
rough.
God, was it about the 10th of August, was it, of 2024?
Yeah,
About then?
yeah. Let's take a peek.
Was that, no, have I got the date wrong?
Well, that's okay.
No, I've got the date wrong. Oh, I can't remember now.
That's okay.
No, wait a minute. Well, all I remember is that the chart for when the two of them met, right? And,
Yep.
and this is the
Okay.
important thing, is the chart for
Yep.
when they met. There
Yep.
was this kite formation, and I thought, yeah, and that's what they're trying to do. They're flying a kite, trying to find peace at this moment. And it was a really expensive thing, right? And they were meeting with, the Saturn Neptune thing. They were meeting in Anchorage. They were meeting on the ice. It was slippy right from the start.
Yep.
But then I thought, hold on a minute, this is affecting all of us. Every single one of us is feeling the effects of this. So what are we reaching out for? How are we trying to fly a kite? And how can we link together so that our kites fly solidly? How do you
I
get a good anchor? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you find an anchor? And we find an anchor through doing what you're doing, right? Exactly. You're finding the anchors because the research that we do is
Yeah.
is the what is the thing that says, well, actually, this could go really fantastic. This could be something to really watch, or otherwise, no, this one doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Can I just go on to something else just for a minute, just because it's flashed in my mind? I
Yes,
got
please.
so fed up. I mean, so fed up. I was going to so many astro things, and people were getting excited about Jupiter's going into Leo. The price of gold's going to go up. Mm.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Oh my God. I thought,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 So what they're telling me is they haven't done any research, right?
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
what they're saying, right?
Yes.
Because you and I know we've got 100 years worth of this stuff, at least, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I did a study on Jupiter through Leo, and actually I did it on first on gold, of course, right? And then I moved on and I actually applied it to the Dow and I applied it to a lot of different things. And I had my AI actually cross assets and look for any pattern. And there is no pattern of any one asset that outperforms during Jupiter and Leo. It's completely regime dependent. Completely.
Yeah. So that's a waste of time, but
Yeah.
it works very well with, with Jupiter and Capricorn, and then you're on a roll, right? That's a whole different story. But this is where I think our craft is changing so much. The kind of work that you and I are doing, right, is that we're going in depth now, right? And it does mean that many of the traditional rules, we're having to say, well, they may have worked up until the 17th century. We're not going to argue about that, but they don't work in today's climate, right? And this, I think, is the beauty of what we're doing. And isn't it lovely that we can do so much research now?
It's amazing. I will tell you the things that I am able to produce with my AI is just, sometimes it blows even my own mind, because I've trained it to do research in the specific way that I do research. I'm actually working right now with training my Claude, because I use different AIs for different research. So right now I'm working on training my Claude in my own trading system and how to find trading setups. And I haven't completed that project yet. But it's really astounding.
Well, I'm really trying to make friends with Claude. I'm really trying, right? But as yet, we don't have the best relationship, right? It might come in time, but maybe I don't think I'm as fast as you are at it. But I'm trying. But because I've also got the headache at the moment of clients coming with very specific needs, and they, I got to deal with that first, and then I can do this other stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's tending to people and their money, right? I feel like that's the focal point, is helping people figure out, and their resources, and their relationships with themselves and each other, and the earth, and their resources. And that's definitely a underpin.
I've got a lovely job at the moment, which is just absolutely delicious. Is that it's an investment with a young man, right, who's become very wealthy, and we're obviously we can't leave the money in the bank. We need to make it work, right? So we're now looking at areas to invest in, and this means looking at all sorts of techniques, the astrocartography for him, the riches on the planet, and I've ended up going back and reading popular science books, right? Because this is the fastest way of me learning about certain, what's in the earth and where is it. So yeah, I mean, I love all this stuff, Margo. It's just, but I take my hat off to you. The kind of research you're doing is fantastic. Absolutely fabulous.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I was inspired to do what I do by people like you, reading your books and having an astrology session with you, and just connecting with you at Ray's Retreat. And you're an inspiration to me. So it's been such
bless you. We had honor. We missed you there this year. We missed you, but
yes, it was such a lovely experience. I bet you guys had a great time.
Yeah, we did. And there's going to be another one next year. So that'll be all right.
Okay.
That will be good. But so I will see you in September.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Okay, do you want to tell the viewers where they can find you?
Oh, sorry, I'm not very good at this, right?
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Okay. So what am I supposed to say? So the website is financialuniverse.co.uk, right?
Okay.
But we also have Instagram, and we have YouTube, right? Now, this is a new element to me. Fortunately, somebody else is handling that side of it. I'll just have to do the work. And I do a monthly class on this, right? So that's a good thing.
And that's a wrap. So everybody knows you can find me through my Patreon or my Discord, and the links are in the video description below. I hope you all have a great week. Until next time.